afternoon. Dwayne here, Dry Creek Wrangler School. Today is April 29th, and so tomorrow is the first day of the first class of this year, and I think we have finally gotten everything ready, and we're setting on go. Kind of excited about it, a little trepidatious, but excited. And so I want to do a video tonight while I got the chance, while it's quiet before everybody rolls in. And for those of you who say, man, we're kind of missing the horse stuff, this is going to be a horse topic. But for those of you who have no interest in horses, I think it'll feed across pretty well to you. And I'm just going to go ahead and say in advance that on the horse side of things, the topic is a little bit, people see it differently and disagree with it. And I'm not, well, you know what, let's just get into it, okay? It's not going to be what you think it's going to be, all right? Have I muddied it up enough? Is the window muddy enough? Okay, so now there is a lot of videos. In fact, I've seen some this week, watched some guys that I really follow and really respect. There's a lot of videos in the horse world out there with the discussion of bits. This is not a video about bits, okay? This is just a jumping off place, all right? One of the major topics and questions in the horse world is, when do I know that my horse is ready to move from a snaffle bit up to a signal bit? Now, we just as well as get into the conflict right at the beginning. This definition of a snaffle bit is like the definition of feminism. You can ask 5 different people and you get 5 different answers, and they're all going to be right because that's what the definition means to them. That's how it works. It's not as nailed down as we think maybe it should be. Now, to me, a snaffle bit is any bit, regardless of the mouth, any bit that does not have a shank. So a D-ring snaffle, an O-ring snaffle, an egg butt snaffle, a pelham bit, whether it's a broken bit or a solid bar mouth, that's, to me, that's my definition. Now, I was watching a horseman this week, his video, and he has a different definition, and I don't have a problem with that at all, okay? He's a horseman, and he's a very good horseman, and so he has his definition, and he does it, and it works for him. It's all good. So, all right, that's not where we're wanting to get to, okay? The question is asked many times, how do I know that my horse is ready to move from a snaffle bit to any bit with shanks, okay, a signal bit? Now, a snaffle bit, to start out, is a very direct communication bit, all right? You to the right, to the left, okay? It's a very direct signal. I want to go to the right, I want to go to the left. And so you move the horse, all right, when you're in training. And then when you get into shanks, it's a signal bit. You've taught the horse neck reins. And so instead of, let's illustrate it like this. Instead of a snaffle bit, which is crudely putting in a steering wheel and a set of brakes, I like to say that a signal bit is a cell phone. That's giving a signal, this is what I'd like you to do. And so the horse hears the signal and the horse does it, okay? Now, again, this is not a video on different bits, all right? What I want to look at this evening is, instead of asking the question, is my horse ready to move from a snaffle bit up into a signal bit? What you need to ask is, are you ready to move from a snaffle bit up to a shank bit, a signal bit? Many times the reason we move from the one bit up to the next bit is because we are not getting from the horse with the snaffle bit what we want. And so we move up to a shank bit. They're not stopping the way we want. They're not turning as light as we want. And so we move up. And so we ask, is the horse ready? When what we should be asking is, am I ready? Because if I can't get a horse, again, we're going somewhere with this, okay? If I can't get a horse to do the basics of anything I want to do in a snaffle bed through signal, then it's not a lack on the horse, it's a lack on my part. So it's not a question of whether the horse is ready to move up into a different bed. The question is, am I ready to move up into another bed? Now, I'm illustrating that. I bring all that up. That's just an illustration, okay? Our goal as horsemen is, and should be, always to improve. Now, this is a part where the non-horse people can start making application into your life as you see fit. I've always wanted to improve. And I still, at my age and my years in doing this, I'm always studying. Now, I'm always watching videos. I watch YouTube videos too, okay? Reading books. I watch horses. I get on horses and I say, this is what I'm doing. Now, what is he doing? Now, what could I do different? I watch other people on horses. What is their horse doing? Now, what are they doing to cause that horse to do that or to help that horse do that? I'm always watching, always learning. And I have made some strides in the last year, myself personally, in my horsemanship. But I realized I was just sitting out here contemplating and pondering the other day about some things with my horses and the horses I've been riding, and some insights I have gotten started applying. And what I have realized was I have not learned a new thing. What do I mean by that? My improvement, my advancement is not because I have learned a new technique. I have learned a new discipline. Where my improvements have come is that I have learned how to better apply a basic. Now, so my wife and I, we homeschooled our children. We did a lot of teaching, okay? And we went through school. So you know that math, all right, you start out adding. You learn to add, all right? To put the jelly beans or the blocks in front of you, whatever. And all right, here's 2. Let's add 1 to it. How many we have? All right, that's the very basics. 3. Okay, so we learn to add. And then we learn to subtract, okay? And then we learn to multiply. We move up and we learn to multiply. And then we learn to divide. Somewhere in there we learn fractions. And then we learn to multiply fractions. And we learn to divide fractions. And we build and we build and we build. You have to have this one before you can have this one. And then we get into algebra. All right, so when we were teaching our children math, and you get to algebra, right when you start algebra, the books that we were using, they always took you back and refreshed in multiplication. Refreshed your multiplication tables, went back, refreshed, did a refresher in fractions, did a refresher in division. All right, and then because what is algebra? Algebra is division and multiplication of fractions with an unknown thrown in there, just to make things difficult, okay? So when one of our children was having trouble in algebra, what it always turned out to be, they were having trouble, not with algebra, they were having trouble with their multiplication tables. Or they were having trouble with fractions. Or they were having trouble with division. And so when we would discern and discover what part they were having trouble getting with the algebra, then we discovered it's not algebra they were having trouble with. They were having trouble dividing fractions or multiplying fractions. They were having trouble flipping that denominator on the other side, or whatever it was. So the difficulty they were having with the advanced maneuver was they did not have a good handle on the simple basic foundation of that advanced maneuver. And so a lot of times why we cannot seem to get the advanced, complicated things in life is because we are missing a competency in a simple thing. And so if we take it back to horses, we are wanting to start doing turnarounds with our horse. I had several folks last year come through the school. A number of folks brought their own horses, and they're like, I want to do this. I want to do a rollback. I want to do this here. And my horse is doing it, but they're not doing it smoothly. They're not doing it calmly. They're not doing it competently. And every single time that came up, what I discovered was the rider was too advanced in the bit that they weren't ready for. And every single time I took them out of a shanked signal bit and put them back down in a snaffle bit and told them, you cannot advance up to a signal bit until you're competent in a snaffle bit. The problem is not your horse's mouth and the signal bit. The problem is your hands with a snaffle bit. They weren't getting the algebra because they had a problem with the addition. They had a problem with the fraction. So every time I said, forget the algebra, let's go back and study our multiplication tables again. Then once we got that down, then they could go back up and they could get the more advanced deal. And a lot of the advances in my own personal life, in my own personal horsemanship that I have discovered that lately that have improved have been my hands and my timing back down with a snaffle bit. It's like, what is the horse? We have a new horse that we're in the process of getting. We've been riding, and he's a cow horse. He's done a lot of ranch work and stuff. He's a little bit sensitive. Okay, he's not a real calm horse. He's a nice horse, all right, but he's a kind of a sensitive horse. And so Will, my son, we were working him in the little arena we got set up out here today. And he was just, and Will had good hands, okay? It wasn't that. But it was when you came up and went to turn, he would jerk his head and come around really hard. And it wasn't smooth and it wasn't calm. And so I watched him for a bit. I was sitting outside and I was watching. I'm like, okay, this is what's going on here. And so I got on him and I did something extremely simple. Didn't change the bit, all right? And I didn't soften my hands from what Will was doing because Will had soft hands. All I changed was, as we come around the panel, if we were coming around this way and I was going to want to turn back into the panel, I looked. And then I just slowly brought him around. After about twice that, he just smoothed right out and calmed right down. And so we didn't need to change his bit. We didn't go into complex deals. What we did was we told him, hey, I'm fixing to give you a signal. The basics of focus, the basic of communication. Communication is the basis of all good horsemanship. I'm going to say that again. Communication is the basis of all good horsemanship. And so when we got it down and we're like, look, let's not do more complicated bits. Let's not do more. Let's just settle down and let's communicate to the horse, because he's already sensitive and he's expecting things. This is going to come. This bit's going to do this. This is going to do this. And so he's like, I'm going to be quick and come around, whatever. And I'm like, let's just go back to the basics. Let's just communicate. Hey, I'm going to turn. I'm going to turn right. And so I kind of turned in the saddle and I just lay that gently on his neck, and he just came right around. Then learn some new trick. The horse didn't have an issue as in the horse was throwing a fit, throwing his head, bucking, but the horse was not calm. The horse was not relaxed. The horse was not smooth. So this is a situation we always, in our horsemanship, we are always wanting to take the horse from an elevated point as far as their temperament, what they're looking for. And we want to take away the fear, the trepidation, the anxiety. We want to take that away, and we want to give them assurance. We always want to give the horse assurance. Hey, I'm going to give you a fair deal. Okay? I'm going to give you a fair deal. Well, it's not a complicated maneuver. It's just go back to the simple. Improve. If he comes around smoother, he's going to come around better. Slow is smooth, and smooth is fast. Isn't that what the guy said? Okay. Well, it wasn't a complicated, fancy bit. It was just we have an addition problem here. We're not getting the algebra because we have an addition problem here. So instead of doing more, let's slow down and let's do less, and let's do it better. All right. So let's just communicate. And a lot of times we work on the horse more than we work on ourselves. And we want the horse to get better. We want the horse to advance. But I think it's always good and it's always necessary to constantly be sitting and asking yourself, how have I improved this week? How much have I insisted my horse improve this week? And how much have I insisted that I improve this week? How much have I taken my horse back to the basics and make sure he has a good, self-confident, calm foundation of the basics? And how much have I taken myself back to the basics? And how much have I made sure that I have a calm, confident foundation of the basics? Because there's two of you there, it's not just one. And you cannot use a bit. Well, my horse isn't doing what I want, so I need a different bit. Well, until you get up in the really complex maneuvers that most of us will never get into, that's not the case. All right? The horse does not need a more complex bit in most cases for most non-pro people. The horse doesn't need a more complex bit. The horse needs a less complex rider. The horse doesn't need a more competent training. The horse needs a more competent rider. And so what we need to work on is back to the basics. Our hands. Are your hands here? Are they quiet? Are they calm? Are they competent? Are they confident? Where's your butt? Are you sitting in the saddle right? Are your legs right? Are your legs out of the way? Are you getting out of the horse's way and allowing him to do the thing that you're asking him to do? These are all the most basics. All right? The answer is not putting on a pair of spurs and then putting on a fancier, more expensive bit with all this stuff on it. Now there's a place for that. All right, these guys that train these straight up bridle horses and people who are in dressage and people who are advanced, they can take their horse advanced. But if you're not advanced and you're trying to advance your horse to a level beyond what you are, that's not going to work. So again, back to the original question, instead of asking, is my horse ready to advance out of the snaffle bit into a signal bit? The question is, are you ready? Are you competent enough to advance out of a simple snaffle bit into a signal bit? And the same thing goes every aspect of life. Okay, your relationship. Well, I think we need to read a bunch of books. We need to go to some seminars. We need to listen to a bunch of TED Talk. We need to do this in our marriage. Are you competent in the simple things? Fellas, do you actually listen to your wife? We've talked about this before. All right, ladies and husbands, either way, do you encourage each other? This is simple, basic humanity 101. Humanity 101. Do you encourage each other? Do you respect each other? Do you communicate? Do you put the work in to get clear communication? You don't need to go up into an advanced deal if you don't have the basics of humanity 101. You say, well, children, I'm raising my children. You don't need, Mama, do I need to be careful here? Okay. There are some religious organizations that specialize in raising and training children. All right. But if you don't have the basics of humanity, and trust me, I know what I'm speaking about. All right. If you don't have the basics of loving your child, setting a boundary and not letting them cross the boundary, but having fun with them and loving them, the basics humanity, how you want to be treated as a child. There's no seminar out there. There's no book out there. There's no magazine out there. There's nothing out there that's advanced that's going to help you. If you don't have the simple math, you can't do algebra. Okay? You can't do algebra. And so a lot of us are choking in different aspects of our life on advanced math. And we're beating our head against the wall because we can't seem to figure out this advanced math, the algebra, the calculus, the trig. When the problem is we're too dang lazy to sit down and study our multiplication tables. And that's what, with one of my children, and I won't name their name on here, but that's what their biggest difficulty was in math. And I kept telling them, look, you can't do this because you refuse to sit down and put in the work necessary to learn your multiplication tables. Because this requires multiplication. And until you do this, you're going to struggle with this. All right? Well, it's the same all the way across life. All the way across life. You cannot ride a bicycle competently if you can't stand on your own 2 feet and walk across the floor competently. Can't do it. All right, you got to learn to walk. And you got to learn to be able to operate a simple snaffle bit lightly but clearly before you can move up to a signal bit competently. Okay? And so that's just, go back to the basics. If you've reached a point with your horsemanship and you're trying, it's like, man, I'm watching all of Buck Brannaman's videos and I just can't get that. You're probably not ready for it. Go back to the basics. All right? Go back to the simple stuff and work on yourself. You trying to train your horse to do something and your horse isn't getting it, stop looking at your horse and look at yourself and say, look, where am I failing at this? What am I missing? What's coming apart with me, with mine? Okay? And the way this works is you grow and you elevate yourself and you bring your horse along with you. You grow and you elevate yourself and you bring your marriage along with you. You grow, improve, and elevate yourself and you bring your children along with you. Okay? All right, hope that makes sense. I hope it helps you a little bit. Hope it encourages somebody. Somebody who's just pulling their hair out because they can't figure out that algebra stuff. Go back and study multiplication tables. And what's it take? It takes work. It takes work, consistently. Just do it again and out. All right? So, what cigar I got going on here? It's a Perdomo Habano. I really like these cigars. I used to keep a box of them in my humidor. Now, last time I ran out for whatever reason, I didn't order anymore. Um, and Tom Voss, the friend of mine, the gentleman who helped us move out here, this is what he smokes all the time, and I kept smelling his, and I'd pull one of mine out, but I'm like, man, I want one of his. I forgot how good that smelled. So I got on cigarplace.biz this week. This is, we talk about them a lot. It's where I get my cigars, and I got a box of these in, and it's they're really good cigars. They're not, if you're starting out, you're a Connecticut shade, then they may not. I wouldn't buy a box of them before I tried one. They're a bit complex. They've got a good flavor body about them, and they're medium to strong in strength, but they're a really good cigar. And so if you don't have a brick and mortar shop close to where you are, check out cigarplace.biz, and that's a good place that you can order them from. And so you want to do, and I always get these, but cigarplace.biz/Dry Creek, I believe is the thing. And that lets them know that you came over there from me, and so they know that I'm doing some good here. Okay? So wish you guys a good one, and just as always, be calm, be logical, be reasonable, be safe, and have fun. And we'll catch y'all next time.